Well, Derek, it's time to bust out the visors then, because we are out of other nonsense for the day. Take the damn hat. All right. My awful hat hair that you all have to deal with briefly.
Oh, wait.
Okay. The beauty of show business, folks. All right. Do you want to go first, or you want to ask me to do one first?
Yeah, you can ask first.
Okay. I'll give you an easy one. Or at least I think it'll be easy for you. Marcus Morris.
Oh, jeez. Is that supposed to be easy?
It's a safe space. Devon's not here. You can be honest about how you feel about
the last
Marcus.
how I feel isn't really necessary. It's I'm still going to go up. I'm still going to go up.
Wow.
I think a lot of people are probably expecting me to go down.
Up on
but
Marcus
stock
Morris.
is just based. Whoops.
You love throwing those things.
Stock is just based off of which direction it's headed. He has been better offensively than I thought he had left. Defensive concerns are still there. I don't expect those to be quelled anytime soon. Like, I don't think I'm going to buy into Marcus Morris defensively. I don't think I'm going to trust Marcus Morris in the playoffs defensively. I don't think that's going to change. But just almost based on the game winner last week, I'm giving him the stock up.
I guess that's fair. We're talking about, when's the last time we did one of these? A few weeks ago?
It's been a
while. At this point,
yeah.
We've had a lot of game shows so hard. It's hard to get this in. I would say watching him take several contested mid-range jumpers last night almost made me say down. But to your point, I think the game winner and the overall body of work is
really, to me, it's just like, the contested mid-range jumpers don't love. Like, the middies are reserved for the stars, and Marcus, not it. But really, it's the pick and roll defense. And not only when he's involved in the two-man action, but like when he's on the wing, he does not believe in tagging the roller at all. Like, he provides no help. And it just infuriates me. It's probably always going to infuriate me. I think it's something that's going to be picked on by good teams. But when you're making 4-point plays and winning games, you got to stock up for the week.
Yeah, and when you're only playing, a certain amount of minutes a night. Okay. Now you got to give me one.
All right. Let me look through the roster and see one that would be interesting to talk about. I feel like that one's probably a little bit too obvious. I'll tell you what. How about this? Nick Nurse. I feel like we don't focus on Nick quite enough.
I think it's got to be stock up. I think with the way that the defense has mostly stabilized after we sat on
like 2 in the league right now.
Yeah. For them to go now, look, you take it with a grain of salt to some extent because of the weak opponents they got through December, but it's been good long enough that I think we say, tip of the accounting visor to Nick Nurse on that end of the floor. I would say that a couple different things. One, they continue to, when they get out to these big leads and they have a hot start to a game, there has been no let up. The fact that we are this far into a season and Joel Embiid is taking this many fourth quarters off because they killed teams so badly through the first 3, that's a great thing. That could have been a product of, hey, they took teams by surprise early in the year. They played crappy teams in December, whatever it is. They've continued to have that killer instinct. That I appreciate quite a bit. I know that we talked about this on the post-game show after the Bulls game. I think seeing him let Joel and Tyrese play through foul trouble was awesome. I think that's a huge departure from Doc Rivers. And frankly, we don't even have to use that as an anti-Doc thing. That's most coaches in the league.
It's most coaches, but Doc was very formulaic,
Doc was robotic about it, but most coaches skew conservative there. And for Nick to not only do that, but then get asked about it after the game and basically say, yeah, there's not a lot of times where guys pick up their 5th in the third quarter or their 4th in the second quarter, shows that this is a philosophical belief. This is something that he says, this is how it should be done. I'm going to stick to that. There's no panicking. There's no going against what I believe about the game. And so he has some of those deeply held beliefs that Doc had, while also being a more rapid adjuster and tactician in the middle of games. And so I continue to think he's doing a great job. I don't know how you could say otherwise at this point. Top 5 team on both ends of the floor. And there's only Joel gets a huge portion of that, right? Tyrese gets a huge portion of at least the offensive side of it. But there's been a lot of juggling lineups, guys in and out, trade. You're relying on mostly role players other than Joel and Tyrese. And I think he's done an excellent job putting all the pieces together.
Yeah, and to your point about the foul trouble, like last night was probably an easy decision to make because you knew Embiid wasn't going to be needed in the fourth quarter. Like there's just no way that Chicago was coming back from that. But I think even the more encouraging thing was to then hear him come, talk after the game and be like, I think this is a mistake we often make, basically.
Yes.
That coaches make this mistake because it's something that I've been ranting about for years. I know you have as well. Rich has on the podcast with me in the past as well. It's just the number of times you'd look up and Joel Embiid would play 27 minutes and finish with 5 fouls would just, I feel like few things that really truly anger me that would really and truly anger me.
Other than having to work with me every
Other
single
than having
day.
to work with Kyle, but I think we've litigated that one quite a bit. Just trust your star, especially someone like Embiid who's so good at it. Just trust him. I love it.
Okay. I'll give you... All right, since he played for the first real minutes in a while last night. I know it's going to be tough, but Jaden Springer.
Oh, I mean, give me.
You can reach out. They're up on the table. See? Oh, there we go. Look at that effort.
Well,
that's why you get paid the big bucks.
It's a good segue because I just loved his effort. The offensive rebounds, the pursuit. Didn't try to do too much. When the easy driving lane wasn't there, he didn't try to make anything out of it. I would like to see him play more. He just gives you an infusion of energy and defense and athleticism. I would like to see him play more. And that tends to be my archetype of players. Like I like Robert Covington and the chaos that he brings on defense and the effort that he brings. I like Jaden Springer and the athleticism and the energy that he brings. And they just have noses for the ball. That's why when B-Ball Paul's not trying to do too much, I tend to be a B-Ball Paul defender because he just brings, and I mean this in a mostly good way, although with B-Ball Paul, it's a little bit of both sides of the equation, but he brings it a mostly good chaos on the defensive side of the floor. B-Ball, like I said, adds a little chaos offensively that you don't always want to see, but I love the defensive energy that Springer has been bringing. I would like to see it more often, especially when you are down so many wings, and the Sixers have been for quite some time.
You love guys who play bigger than their listed height, too. Like, I think to see him...
Springer gets hit and he doesn't move.
Yeah.
He's just strong.
To see him come into the game last night, first real minutes he's getting in a while, and immediately rip a rebound out of Andre Drummond's hands and create a dunk for Daniel House, like, that's the sort of thing that is going to get him more playing time, right? Because we know all the kinks he's got to iron out as an offensive player. I still think he looks like, set aside shooting percentages or anything else, I still think he looks a little like a deer in the headlights when you put him out there in a half-court possession. Now, the beauty with him is that because he can create turnovers, because you're going to get more stops, you might end up in transition more often. He can finish, do all that. He does have a few moves that he can go to. It's mostly spin moves around the elbows, the free throw line for a short jumper, and that's not really sustainable for a player like that. So the catch and shoot stuff does have to come around. But to your point, Derek, it's the type of guy that you just, when you see how hard he plays, when you see him make that crazy athletic play, who was it? Was it Io that he blocked in transition? Seeing him make a play like that where it's half athleticism, half effort, and then send the Sixers the other way, you hope that people like that get more chances to leave an imprint on the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just like rewarding effort and athleticism and consistency too, and he's been that. I guess. All right, I do want to ask you about one more because he's been a little bit up and down here. Kelly.
So, admittedly, I'm going to give him
a little bit by the last game.
I'm going to give him a stock up after last game.
Been real up and down though, like 3 of 9 shooting against the Raptors, and he comes out in 9 of 16 against the Heat, 1 of 7 against the Magic, 5 of 13 against Chicago, then 5 of 8 against, like he's been up and down. But I think first of all, I think last game might have been the best passing game of the season for him. He was just
He had
moving
several
the ball.
assists, right?
Yeah, he had 3 assists, which ties a season high. In fact, there's only been, I think, like 3 games where he's had more than 1. Maybe 4 games where he's had more than 1. So that's a real high assist game.
Money Morris says stock down. I don't know.
He's certainly been like, I think there's been more instances of you and I going like, oh, that's a bad shot. Like, you don't need to take that shot, Kelly. That's creeped in a little bit. But I've been consistent on this. I will continue to give him praise as long as he buys in defensively. He bought in defensively since coming back. He's been active. He's obviously has good size and athleticism to help and recover. The offense is up and down. And part of that is shot selection. Part of that is that pretty much all players who are relying on outside shots tend to be streaky, but he's especially streaky because you couple the sometimes shots don't go in with some bad shot selection and the fact that he doesn't really create for others, but the defense is there. So I will take that. If you at least give me some nights like last night where he, what do you have, like 16 points in the first half or something like that? He's real impactful.
So here's what I would say to build off of your point. I think to be this deep into the season, we're in early January, and we're still in good Kelly defense mode.
Yep.
To be that far in, and look, has he had some poor possessions? Has he taken plays off like other guys do? Yes. But I would say, at least in my observing of Kelly throughout his career, this is probably the most consistent defense he's ever played.
100%.
Now, he's got a smaller role than he's had, certainly than he did in Charlotte, but definitely in other places as well. When he's brought into Golden State, thought he's going to be an essential guy, and that turned out not to be the case. So for him to play this level, the level of defense that he has for this long, and with as few, gaps in production, effort, all that he's had, I think that's a major win. And so that's why I would say stock up. To your other point, Derek, yes, the offense has been up and down. I'd say some of that is based on who was available night to night, right? Like Joel missed a week worth of games, and that impacts the shot quality, the amount of responsibility that he has, things of that nature. Last night, I believe, was the first time him and Batum have played extended minutes together, right? And so he was the beneficiary finally of one of their, if not their best connective player in the lineup. I thought looked right at home in that starting lineup. I think we're going to save some discussion about potential lineup changes for tomorrow. But the stuff that I was worried about with Kelly has mostly been kept in the background. You see some tough shots here and there, but I've been super pleased with what he's brought to the team. I think his attitude has been great, as not just on the floor, but in like the locker room as one of the guys. He's bringing his hard hat to the floor every night on defense. So I don't think you can ask him for much more than he's given you this year so far.
Yeah. And look, that archetype of a player, even this year, he's scoring like 13 points on like 10.5 shots or whatever with pretty much no assists. That is not the archetype of player I will ever gravitate towards. I think that's the type of player who can be pretty easily overrated offensively. He doesn't really provide the kind of floor spacing that you would expect. We've talked about his catch and shoot numbers a lot. He was a bad catch and shoot player before coming here, in part because he would shoot 37% on open catch and shoot threes and then like 25% on contested. He needed to cut those out. He hasn't cut those out completely, but he's cut those out some, and that has helped. But the reason why I am much more willing to buy on him now than I was before the season is that defensive engagement is just so much more consistent that I am willing to live with the bad shots or the lack of passing, because you get occasional microwave scoring offense and pretty consistent effort on defense. That is a formula that I'm much more willing to buy in on than early career Kelly Oubre.
Agreed. So thumbs
and again,
up.
It might change if there's a new contract. It's easier to buy in on when it's a minimum contract. That's part of the equation as well. But he has been, I think he should be a consistent part of the rotation. I wouldn't have said that before the season.
Yeah, and I did see that Liam was asking about the potential starting lineup change. We are going to probably go more in depth, as our producer Bree points out in the comments. We talked about it on the post-game show last night, but I think we're going to go in depth with that for tomorrow's show. Got any more stock stuff you want to get to, Derek, or is it time to?
I think that's a pretty good amount of stocks.
Get up on out of
here.
I
do feel like we need to find someone to nitpick because all of them were stock up, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Mo Bamba, hand me that blue sign. That's stock through the.
That was never up though. Like how? Yeah.
Stock down on Mo Bamba because I just can't. I know we discussed it already, but I can't watch that guy anymore. Right. But I don't think we'll have to watch him.
And I also don't think we really have to expand on that. I think everyone knows why.
No, I think the people.
Remember when we had that one random person in the comments that was like, "Oh, he just wasn't playing well in the preseason." I can't remember their name,
but yeah, they were like, "Yeah, he didn't care about the preseason." It's like, buddy, he hasn't cared about anything ever. That's kind of his whole problem.
No, I think almost everyone is in agreement on that one. All right, I think that's probably a good place to wrap this one up here.
We all silly like the mayor.